I have come to this new land to create for myself new opportunities and adventures. I wish to free myself from the old ways and to flourish in a new, exciting and prosperous land. However, they followed me. I am beginning to wonder if I shall ever be free of their suffocating and oppressive grasp. I plan to establish my homestead here in the land of change. Chapter 1. The River Through the Forest. I have created my home on the eaves of a mighty forest, on the border of a great and ancient desert, and near to the great northern forest of snow and ice. I scoured the plains for many days in search of an ideal location. I had found a seemingly perfect locale, only to find that its foundation had been ruined by a pit of molten lava. The search continued, but ever did this imperfect perfection of a site linger in my mind. I followed the river that sprung forth from the watered forest as it snaked its way through the plains and climbed into the drier scrublands beyond. However, every new rise, every new valley, they all paled in comparison to my earlier find of the molten paradise. I searched high and low, but could not find a site that ignited the flame of pioneering in my heart. So I resolved myself. I ventured back in search of the molten paradise. I wandered far, taking shelter when I was forced to, eating what I could find, gathering resources as I found them. 50 long days of travel, I had finally reached my destination, the site of my new home, the molten paradise. Throughout this journey, they were there, following me around and gnawing at my sanity. I must find a way to keep it safe and thriving, even under the oppressive grasp of them. Chapter 2. The Raising of the Cabin. I hurriedly lay claim to the new land in front of me. Earlier in the journey, I had gazed upon the site with wondrous joy. The site had all the qualities I was looking for: a cool pool fed by a flowing river, a lush forest of many trees, and a vast plains that stretch out to as far as the eye can see, and a short half-day's travel to the nearest town, a dry and clustered place in the desert, which I called Clusterfon. They were eager to barter, but their prices were high, and their haggling skills were unmatched. Selling any wares or spoils I find will be challenging. As the sun hurriedly set on the horizon, I began to construct my temporary home. A shack of cobblestone to ward off the spiders, skeletons, zombies, and devious creepers that pervade every corner of this world. I hastily laid down the structure, set up my bed in storage, and collapsed upon it to rest until morning. When the sun had risen and the welcome sound of the burning agony of the evil things of the night had subsided, I set out to strike the earth and lay down the foundation for my new home. Upon first discovering the site, taking in all of its splendor and perfection, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was too good to be true. Everything was perfect. Of course, the beauty of this place clouded my senses, and I could not hear the bubbling sound of the hellfire pit beneath me. That is when they found it. With their questioning and piercing eyes, they cackled at the sound, and there lay 2 stone blocks, suspiciously placed upon the green fields. My curiosity was piqued. I had to know what lay under this grove of perfection. I struck through the stone with my trusty tool, and to my shock and horror, I had struck into the very hellfires themselves. Molten lava? What worse a find than this? The perfection of the site was tainted by its fiery presence. So I fled to find greener lands. Now, with my resolve steeled, I have returned to build my home. As a testament to my resolve and wish to be free of the old ways, I have decided to build my house over top the fiery chasm from whence my fears had sprung. I had gathered much stone on my travels, but I needed far more. I set out to mine the rock, as required, as my building supplies cracked and seared. There was a convenient cave located near my new house, from which I shall gather my resources. I mined away furiously, I cut down many trees. I tilled the earth by the pool and lay my seed beneath the earth, mining rock, sculpting it, cutting trees, sawing them. After many days and nights of work, I had gathered my resources and began the construction of my cabin. Due to the fiery pit that I have begun to watch with satisfaction, I could not create a basement. So I have fashioned an L-shaped cabin so I may have the room to house all of my belongings, both present and future. When I am established, I shall investigate the earth for a possible smaller basement. I had finished my cabin, walls of pine and oak, inlaid with birch, paneled floors, and the finest chiseled stone. However, in my haste and furious construction, I had neglected to make a fireplace to heat my home. For all its fiery glow, the hellfire pit was surprisingly inadequate at heating my house. So I knocked out a wall and constructed a mighty fireplace worthy of the hellfire its inhabitants shall strive to emulate. With my house complete, I began to cut down trees to fence my property in. The harvest grew closer. The golden wheat was starting to show. I began crafting furniture for my home, the chests and tables I will need to further my home. I had begun to work through the night in my haste to finish my fencing. The creepers and skeletons were vicious, but I managed to defeat them. Upon the rising of the sun, I harvested my crops. The bones of the freshly immolated skeletons were still in my fields. The harvest was great, and food enough to sustain me until the next. While I was busy completing the typical tasks of my new home, they came and inspected my house, their eyes filled with disgust and jealousy. The old ways must not be forgotten, they bellowed, and stormed out of my house in a quiet rage. I begrudgingly hung their colors, mainly from memory, but after gazing into the eyes of their grotesque mascot too, one too many times, I tore it down in a cold sweat and hung my new colors proudly and with an uneasy heart. They surely will not take this lightly. Chapter 3. Them. The history of them is long. I shall keep it short and relevant to this new tale. They had followed me from the prosperous village I had pioneered and watched grow. The rules were simple and the mood was relaxing. However, they began to change and had become enraged by the works of decadence and greed that were created by the other settlements of the land. They bore a special and unrelenting hatred for the rare breed of men known as the Hill Jews, who were drawn to the mountaintops to build mighty Jew forts in the dizzying heights. They were extremely cautious of anyone who did not follow their ways, so I was forced to be in agreement with their twisted ideals. Though I had secretly ventured to visit the mighty Jew forts of the lands, inspired and in awe of their architecture and brilliance, they had begun to rule the village which sprung up around my humble abode with an iron fist, and crushed any attempts to dissuade this rule. I had decided long ago to flee for new lands, free of corruption and hatred. Little did I know that this attempt was that of folly. They followed me like a moth to a torch. They followed my every move. I tried to lose them in the great white forest from which I entered these new lands. I had ducked into a cave and tried to wait them out. But their cries of fear and agony overwhelmed me, and I fled into the woods. They saw me and continued their pursuit. They do not know of my repulsion, for I would fear for my life if they knew my true feelings. So it was with them in trail I had ventured into new lands, burdened with oppression, hatred, and a crushing sense of impending doom for the inhabitants of this new and vibrant land. Soon, they shall feel the corrupt and seething hatred of them. Chapter 4. Into the Watered Forest and the Cave of Peril. With my home nearing a more complete state, I began to feel the need to find more valuable resources. My iron reserves were running dangerously low, only 17 bars. The shock! I ventured into the watered forest, following the river that snaked lazily through its cool boughs. The river skirted the edge of the forest, and I skipped and swam happily along its route. As I ventured further into the forest, I saw it. A dark and mysterious entrance into a surely perilous and adventure-filled cavern. Exactly what I was looking for. I steeled myself and began lighting the way down. The cave was less interesting than I had hoped for at first, but soon enough it expanded into a wide cavern with many sneaking paths. There were zombies and skeletons abound in this cave of peril. I explored slowly and mined all the iron and coal and gold I could find. Precious metals were there. They drove me deeper, and I slew the spider, crushed skeletons, destroyed zombies, and disarmed creepers. Nothing could stop me. I was mighty in this cave of peril. Drunk on the victory of battle. So I left the cave of peril with loot in hand, skipping boldly through the night, laughing in the faces of evil things of the night as I strode through the moonlit groves of the watered forest. That is when it came to me. In a moment of lust and greed, I had decided that I should go record hunting. My most precious of belongings in the old world. I yearned for some to call my own in this land of change. I danced around the creepers, goading the skeletons into shooting me, and they laughed as they shot the creepers instead. 3 times I laughed as they missed their mark, but hit mine. However, on the 3rd, that is when it happened. I was ecstatic with the course of events. I felt invincible. Nothing could stop me. So it is not surprising that I misjudged the distance in the most dangerous hunt for the records. The creeper jumped and hissed at the skeleton's arrow. It jumped right into me. I screamed in horror. There was a terrifying explosion, and I woke suddenly, warm in my bed. But what had happened? Was it a dream? I did not know, but I awoke with no belongings. I paced about my cabin for hours and finally decided I shall go and find this fateful place where the creeper and I had collided. I ventured into the night and found it amidst a pool of clear and cool water. All of my belongings were scattered about. The creeper or skeleton was nowhere to be seen, and the mysterious green orbs were thick in the pool. I hastily gathered my belongings, and evil things of the night watched with a devious, demonic stare. On my way back, I was shocked by a herd of creepers next to a team of skeletons. The perfect opportunity! I could not let this hazy terror forever haunt my hobby of record hunting, so I bravely set forth and caught a creeper's interest, led him within range of the bloodlust of the skeleton team. 1, 2, 3 times the skeleton shot the creeper, with its hissing in pain. On the 4th shot, its hissed a dying breath and collapsed. The skeletons, overcome with bloodlust, began shooting each other, so they were easy prey. I then collected their remains and proudly grasped my first record of this new land. 13. I shall now need to venture into the deeps to find the elusive mineral known as diamond.